All right, we're going to braise a fork. I've got the flame adjusted to a slightly reducing flame. I've got everything fluxed up and fixtured. The purpose of the fixture is to hold all the parts in exactly the right spot. So I'm going to start by preheating one side of the crown in the most thermally massive area. This will take a little while. I'm watching the flux. Really the color of the flux and the consistency of the flux and the bubbles are my thermometer. One doesn't want to overheat things for a number of good reasons, but the silver won't flow until the flux and the metal is exactly the right temperature. So again, I'm looking really carefully at that flux. If I do this right, the metal shouldn't ever turn red. It might turn red a little. Sometimes that's unavoidable. But it is possible to silver braze without ever getting the metal red. Here we go. Looks like things are at the right temperature. That's good. The silver pulled into the joint in the window of the fork crown there. In order to balance things, I'm going to go over and do exactly the same thing on the other side. I may block the camera view there a bit, for which I apologize. The purpose of doing things left, right in a balanced fashion is to minimize the amount of heat distortion. It's also the reason I'm doing the outside of the joint first. Turns out when you braise a joint, it tends to pull out more than it pulls, tends to pull in more than it pulls out. So in order to balance that effect, one does the outside joint first, so that one, as it cools and contracts, tends to pull the joint apart, as in outward, so that when the inward pulling brazing is done, the effect is less severe. Again, it pulled in very nicely. We go ahead and braise the top of this lug point on the fork crown too. That looks good. The inside points on these lug crowns are a little bit separated from the fork blade, so I'm going to use this homemade modified C-clamp to just help hold those long points of the crown against the fork blade while I tack the blade at the top. Tack the tang to the blade. Just enough heat to get the top tack, that's good. I'm going to try to pull the heat down below the clamp. That's a little difficult because the clamp is such a big heat sink. Okay, so that tang is tacked. Go do the same thing to the other side. Again, this clamp is nothing more than a modified C-clamp designed for exactly this purpose. I can feel the heat radiating off. I know things are good and hot. Warming up the point of the fork crown there. It's just getting a little red there. It's hard to avoid when the mass is that low. Okay, that looks good. Now, I'm going to go back and tack in the upper part of the outside of the right lug, the right crown tang. That's good. So now the two sides are matched. And things are pretty well tacked. At this point, I'm going to try to tack or braze the large inner tang of the fork crown to each of the blades. I may, as I do this, the heat may get to the point where the tack I did at the top to hold that fork tang against the blade pops loose. If that's the case, I'll just get the clamp back out. I'm going to start at the bottom. Here, I'm hoping you can see how the silver gets pulled into the joint. The silver goes where the heat is, and so what one wants to do here is put the heat where you want the silver to go, not where the silver is. Trying not to overheat things. It gets a little red there. That's okay. That's a pretty massive thing there. I'm going to let that cool just a little bit before I try to join the part I just brazed up to where I tack that inner tang of the fork crown so it doesn't pop loose. Meanwhile, I'll go around to the front. Now I'll go to the other side and do the same thing. Notice I'm going back and forth, right and left, to try to balance the heat. That minimizes the amount of distortion. Even with perfect fixturing and really awesome heat control, it's impossible to eliminate all of the heat distortion on a fork. You're brazing up here at the crown, and the dropouts where the wheel goes in are so far away that any little movement down here at the crown will be magnified up there at the wheel location. So some alignment of forks is always necessary, no matter how good a job you do controlling your heat and how nice your fixturing is. Going to the back side now. By rights, I should be doing the other side just to go right, left, but I know things are solidly in place by now, so I'm not too worried about that. And what I'm trying to do is pull silver into the gap between the fork crown and the blade. And as long as the silver keeps moving in there, I know the joint is not fully brazed. There's still air in there. So at this point it's no longer pulling in. So I'm pretty sure this side of that joint is full of silver. We'll go to the other side, do the same thing. Watching the flux to get everything up to temperature. There, the silver flows. Putting the heat where I want the silver to go, not where the silver is. You'll see the back of that fork crown tang heat up a bit. You'll see it glow a little red as I pull the heat in, pull the silver in with the heat. It's going in there pretty nicely. I'm going to go finish up to the top of that little point again. Looks good. Didn't pop loose. That's nice. It's kind of a pain when it does. And really, at this point, both sides are pretty well done, although I do see a little gap on the other side I've got to go fill. But I'm just going around now to make sure that no more silver wants to flow into those joints, that it's truly full. Yeah, there's no more going in, so we're good. If you put too much in, it's not a big deal. You'll just have to file it off when it's cold. That's kind of a pain, but it's part of the deal. And I probably just put a little bit too much there. Oh no, there it goes. I'm good. All right. Yeah, I'm chasing a little bubble, or not a bubble, a wave of silvers down that joint. I don't know if you can see that or not. That's a little excess silver. I'm going to just work the heat a little and see if I can pull it into the joint. If not, I'll have to clean it off with a file afterwards. Not the end of the world. There it goes. All right, it's going. Good. Excellent. That looks good on this side. Come around the other side, see if there's a little gap on the back too. I bet I can pull a little silver into there. Oh yeah, there we go, okay. Silver everywhere. It's not pulling in anymore when I heat it up, so that says the joint is full. I think we're good. All right, we'll shut the torch off. Let everything cool. Soak the flux off and see what we got.